Commissioner Darrell Skiles swam his way in this morning.
Yeah. It's all right. We're getting a little moisture again. How about that? Some more rain. Good morning, Stan.
We haven't had rain in a long time, Darrell. I'm not sure you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's your rain gauge doing? Is it still working?
We had about 9/10 in it when I left this morning.
And it's still raining.
How much
a
we've
little
had
bit,
this month, I don't know. But
there'll be more rain today.
that's all right, though.
That'll be going, yeah.
Dent County likes rain in May.
Well, we're already over 10 inches above normal. So.
Yeah. We're doing all right on the rain side.
Right. Our ponds are in good shape.
Time to dry off, warm up a little bit, and let us get some good hay put up.
Yeah. Well, next week should be your hay week, so.
There will be a lot of hay knocked down next week, I'm sure. I'm sure people with
sunshine,
alfalfa are wanting to
you
get it
bet.
down and get it going.
Sunshine every day, and it looks good, and maybe rain by next weekend, but that's okay. We can take care of that. Well, anyway, Presiding Commissioner Darrell Skiles with us, and of course, we have had Health Center Administrator Kendra Mulberry with us virtually every Friday that you've been in lately. She's tied up today. We do have one case of COVID-19 now.
We had one case test positive on Wednesday.
Right, and so she's going through all that protocol, and I can't even imagine, this is really why I was hoping she could make it in, how much that one case, I mean, I can't imagine how much paperwork there is involved and things of that nature.
There's a lot of work there, and they're on top of that, and they're working on that. But we do want to mention, we did have one case. A person tested positive on Wednesday. They got that information. So the health center staff has been working on that. And so we just do want to mention they've isolated the individual. They are isolated, and all the close contacts have been notified and are being monitored. But they did want to mention that they've done tracking as far as where the individual was at and at what times and so on. Right. So I'd like to go ahead and mention those things.
Sure, absolutely.
And by the way, I'm just reading this right off of Your World Today, so you had this information out there. But for those listening that haven't seen the Your World Today or haven't seen the news
or Facebook, and we had out there yesterday.
Right, and a lot of folks don't get or do Facebook. But anyway, they did want folks to know that the person who's tested positive was at these locations on the days and dates. On Friday, the person who's tested positive on Friday, May the 8th, they were at the Salem Country Mart from about 10:30 a.m. till 11 in the morning. And then they were at the Salem Walmart from about 11 until 12 noon. Again, this is back on Friday, May the 8th. And then also on Friday, they were at Pizza Inn, Salem Pizza Inn, from 5 to 6 p.m. in the afternoon. And the person was also at the Salem Main Street Cafe on Tuesday morning, May the 12th, from about 11 in the morning until about noon. So people who were at these locations on these dates and at those times, they are at low risk for contracting COVID-19, but just so they're aware, there was somebody there who's later tested positive, so just want to encourage people to monitor themselves for the symptoms of it, because we did have someone who tested positive. There's no need for people to self-quarantine or isolate themselves unless symptoms develop. And Kendra Mowbray says it's important that each and every one continue to practice basic preventive measures to help decrease the spread. And those measures, as outlined by the CDC, include avoiding contact with people who are sick, covering coughs and sneezes, proper hand washing, cleaning frequently used surfaces, and staying home when sick. And the health center highly encourages you to call your healthcare provider before seeking care if you suspect you have COVID-19 or have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. If you suspect it, call your healthcare provider and make arrangements then for somebody to see you or get you tested.
Right.
So anyway, the symptoms, there's a wide range of symptoms that for the COVID-19, and the symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. And those symptoms are cough, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, fever, chills, muscle pain, sore throat, a strange new loss of taste or smell, and some of the less common symptoms include nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. Now, that's not all-inclusive, but if you have some of these symptoms, call your doctor, your healthcare provider, and see. So.
Yeah, very good. Remember to call your doctor or your healthcare provider. Do not just show up.
Don't just show up. That's right.
Because you need to call them and tell them that you suspect you may have COVID-19. There's a different protocol to be done.
Right.
Now, and also we want to remind anybody, Darrell, who might have that or any other major symptoms that come where you actually have chest pains or you have You get blue in the lips and blue in the face.
Right. The more
you need to call 911 and get to the hospital.
those emergency warning signs are trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in your chest, which obviously if you have persistent pain or pressure in your chest, you ought to get help.
Should.
But anyway, bluish lips or face, which is basically indicating the lack of air, oxygen.
Right.
So anyway, so we did have a sign, but they are working on it and contacting all the folks who have been in close contact. And so.
Well, we kind of knew it would happen sooner or later, it's just.
Yep.
But
Good chance.
They have jumped on it quickly, and hopefully that will be it. That'd be nice if that would be the only one we ever get. That would be fantastic. But we have to be
Right.
realistic. COVID-19 is not going to go away anytime in the next week or two, so it's just going to be around.
Influenza hasn't gone away.
No,
Never
it's
has.
still around.
We
And
just,
this is a
we deal
form
with
of influenza.
It
It
is
really
an
is. It's just a
mhm.
strain that we do not have anything for.
Have
all
no
it is.
vaccine for, and don't really have any antivirals yet
Right.
that will really attack and treat this viral. So,
However,
it.
there's 21 vaccines being tested right now.
Yep.
21 different ones, and I've been reading on different ones, and they're using different vaccines. And I mean to tell you, talk about some companies that are really doing some, hard work on this, that are trying some different things because some of the old stuff that was used isn't effective on this, so they're having to try and attack it different ways. It's just amazing the technology out there, Darrell. When you look at some of how these people are doing this, they're spinning DNA, and they're taking out the positives. And I don't know how the heck they do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's way beyond me. But when I read about it, and I'm thinking, wow, what kind of a crazy world do we live in that we can spin somebody's DNA or take a DNA of this virus, they spin it, and they take out the antibodies.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. So we'll hopefully.
We've got great minds working on it, though.
That we do.
That's
And
guaranteed.
Hopefully we'll be able to come up with something, here in the very near future. You do know the test protocols is probably going to be 3 to 6 months because they have to do it on. Some have been tested on animals that have proved them very good. They have to test on humans now, and you have to have guinea pigs.
Right.
You
Exactly.
just have to have them, and people have signed up for these who have tested positive for the COVID-19. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's get back to county business, though. A couple of things.
Related with this, the county we did receive we received notification when I was on here a couple of weeks ago.
Right,
We talked about that. We
right.
knew we were going to be getting some CARES Act fund.
Right.
And so we did receive that from the state. It was $1,827,000 and some odd
Pennies.
change. So, and that money is to be used to pay for costs, as we talked about before. That money is to be used to pay for costs directly related to the COVID emergency incurred between March 1st of this year and December 30th of this year. Now, obviously, it's a long time till December 30th, but at any rate, there are guidelines in place. These are federal dollars. Mm-hmm. There are federal guidelines that are in place as to what these monies can be expended on. For the time being, right now, those monies will be set aside. We will have to amend our budget to account for this, set up an entirely new fund for these dollars, and every money spent from this will come out of that fund. And so we will be having a budget hearing on Tuesday morning. That's Memorial Day weekend, so we won't be meeting on Monday. So we'll just go ahead and meet on Tuesday, May the 26th at 9:30. We'll have a budget hearing to just approve a budget for that fund, for those monies to sit in, and then funds can be spent out of that. And we can use those funds to reimburse any public entity that has incurred costs that are due to, or they say one of the favorite words they have to say, but for, were it not but for the coronavirus, these monies wouldn't have been spent. So therefore, if you have expenses, some public entity, our school, the health center will, I know, be looking for funds for monies they've expended and costs they've incurred. Any of these public entities will be working with to be sure that they can get funded, because those are easy. We have to have invoices to back up the claims for cost. There will be audits, as I said. They wanted to emphasize we have to make sure, though, that all the funds do meet the guidelines as a qualifying expense. And if they don't, then the county will be on the hook for repaying them. It would be up to the county to try to get the money back from the entity that got it, but the county will be held responsible for for every penny of those dollars. So it is incumbent that we make sure we know. And some of the guidelines are rather vague, and we're working through that right now to try to get better clarification as to what for sure those guidelines are, get something in writing from somebody up the line so that we're not hung out to dry somewhere down the road and have to try to repay some dollars. So at any rate.
Yeah, it was very vague in that law that they sent down. Many things were pretty distinctive.
Yes.
Other things were not so distinctive.
Well, there's a section in it, and I'm pretty excited about it, and most everybody, I think, has heard it. There's a one section in it that deals with dollars that can be used for grants for small businesses to cover the cost of closures due to Now our question is, what is the definition of costs of closures? Are they talking about direct costs that you can show with an invoice? Or are you talking about cost, what it cost you? What it cost a business to be closed for 30 days or 45 or 60 days. And so we'll be working on that and clarifying those things. And again, the administration of this thing is going to be a major deal.
Sure.
But at any rate, we're going to be working on that, getting clarification and to see what all falls within, especially that guideline where we can get those dollars to private businesses that have suffered. And we know some private businesses all across the county and the state and the country have suffered. So these are dollars that are out there, and so we're going to.
And there were some non-essential businesses, Darrell, that took some big hits on fixed costs that, I can see were directly associated to COVID. They would not have encountered those
exactly,
without that. But what I can't, right now, knowing that there's some of these grants out there, and with the PPP program, some people are getting their employees paid for. And you can't get both. You can't get that money and that.
You can't layer anything on top of it.
Right, and if you have the idle, you can't get that and that. So,
right.
And if you get the idle money, you can't get all that in the PPP. It's not exempt. There's a lot of exceptions to this, and I know that all has to be worked out and solidified before any application even be put out.
Right, and again, so to go along with that, and then of course, let me just back up. Again, we're going to be working on how to best get these dollars administered to all those who qualify. It can't be used by any public entity to replace lost revenue, and we know cities, counties, everybody, particularly that rely on sales tax, is going to see reductions of revenues most likely just because of the slowdown in the economy and business. But these dollars can't be used to replace that. It can, for those public entities and things, it can only be used to repay dollars spent for necessary expenses directly actual expenses related to it. Now then, we had an MRPC meeting last night, and since this came up, we've been talking with MRPC, and they've been looking at it very closely. And MRPC will be sending out some information this week. And you're going to excuse me, I'm probably going to sneeze here in a moment. It's allergy season as well.
It is allergy
season. On top of it. So, but anyway, they've been working on details of this CARES Act. And again, like everybody else, trying to get clarification of all these things, what it does, of the funding. And they've been working on how they might be able to help counties, because the administration of this thing is going to be huge, and trying to get it administered right. And somebody's going to need to be on point where anybody even inquiring about applying an application and process need to be able to get a hold of somebody that can do it. So MRPC is working on this, and they're going to be getting some more information coming out to the counties here next week. But I think most of the counties in the MRPC region are pretty excited about being able to have MRPC handle the administration of this thing, and because I think it'll work well for everybody, especially for those wanting to get the dollars and needing the dollars. I think they can help streamline this process for all of the counties in this thing, and applications and screening through and getting information. And here's information you don't have that you got to have, because frankly, there's nobody on the county level that could just work on this every single day.
You'd have to hire somebody. Or
now,
two people.
Now, the second-class counties that have actually an internal auditor and auditing staff in their counties, they can pretty well handle that. But other counties are looking at just hiring outside law firms or something with larger firms to do that. But I think the Regional Planning Commission is probably going to be the way we can do this. We do know that any monies we expend covering administrative costs are covered under the the provisions of that, because were it not for the COVID AC,
You
we
wouldn't be
wouldn't be
spending money.
COVID-19, we wouldn't be spending those dollars, and that administrative cost to get the money, get it administered is there. So anyway, so that's, and that pretty well sums up the MRPC meeting last night as well then. So that really and truly, that pretty well was the gist of it, but it was a long, fairly long meeting with a lot of question and discussion and those things. One of the things, and I did talk about too, getting these dollars will throw Dent County over the federal limit of federal dollars. That will trigger us having to get a 1-year special audit for this year, and which will cost the county about $15,000 or $20,000. And it's you can say, well, then that ought to be an eligible expense. Well, it could be, but the problem is that expense won't come until next year, because that's when they'll do the audit. So there's a lot of question there as to whether or not we could contract with somebody late this fall to do that and pay them for work that hasn't been performed yet. I don't really think that'll fly, and I don't think we're going to be able to do that.
You got till March 31st of the 2021.
Well, there's some difference in opinion on that. The legal people that have looked at this say that the federal guidelines dictate that those dollars have to have been spent between March 1st and December 30th.
Right. So if you put that on December 30th, which would be the end of the year.
It said those dollars would have to be spent. The check would have to be cut for work that hasn't been performed yet. And they're saying the legals are saying tread carefully. And that's not how the state says it, but they said there's a few things that the state has put out that wasn't quite right. They've done figured out. And they said on that deal there, that they said that the federal deal, when you delve deep into it, is specific, that it has to be for expenses incurred between March 1st and December 30th. So whatever, we're going to do it, but it is frustrating if we get hung with that. Now, I'm hoping somewhere along the line, as Congress in D.C. goes through all these things that they can do to help, one of the things they could do is make a set aside that dollars received by counties and municipalities for COVID emergency not count towards the federal triggers that trigger the special audits. But we'll see. If they do, hopefully we'll get something done there. But it's frustrating because our county, Dent County itself, while it's going to be in our bank account and our deal, and by the way, any interest, it will draw interest. It'll be an interest-bearing account, but any interest that it draws would have to be used as well for the same purposes. Now, any monies not spent by December 30th, before the state said any monies not spent by March 30th would have to be returned. The legal's looking at it saying that any money is not spent by December 30th will have to be returned by March 30th. Now, in other words, any money still sitting in the account, you've got until March 30th to get it sent back to the state. Others say it's got to be sent directly back to the Fed. So I don't know. There's a lot of vague things in this thing. All we know is right now is they sent us the money with some fairly vague guidelines on some parts of it is what we can do. A lot of it we know we can reimburse fairly quickly. But at any rate,
when I hear you talk, I'm hearing confused. If somebody had a claim in December, there's no way you could have that check written by December 30th. There's no way. You wouldn't even have a bill back for it yet until January.
They're saying if they have a claim in December, they better have their stuff together pretty good and get it to you so you can get those monies expended.
I think there'll be something on that. I mean, if it actually stays that
They're saying the federal definition of expenses incurred will be expenses spent, money spent.
Well,
and so
it will be money spent, but if I can't pay my electric bill until I get it, and it's in December, that's going to be January.
I agree. I'm not arguing.
No, I know. But, I'm trying to figure out how they could sit there and justify that. But like you said, it's very vague right now, and they're still working on it.
But those things we'll work through, and we'll work through those. But at any rate, we'll be working on this. This will be at least it'll be a help for those who can need it, and we'll try to get it out to everybody, all those that we can. You got to understand too, though. It's a long time between now and December 30th, and we're still really just in the beginning of this thing. This thing isn't just, we're over the hump now and it's history, and now we can divvy all this money up. We don't know what's going to happen between now and December 30th. That there might be some huge need for these dollars and for somebody to use. So but that money's sitting there, and so we will use it and as best we can according to the guidelines, and because the last thing we want is to end up being on the hook for for a couple $100,000 that the feds say we want it back.
Right. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and you actually mentioned this at the commissioner meeting, is how lucky we are in this area to have an MRPC, Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, that works well with their counties. There are a lot of, well, I don't say a lot of them, there are a few out there that don't really communicate very well with the counties, and the counties don't communicate very well with them.
Yeah.
That would be a very big hardship on some.
Right. Yes, we've got an excellent staff at MRPC, and some of the other regional planning commissions are actually contacting them and getting some help and guidance from them on how they're going to handle this and work through it. So so I feel real good about where we're at on that. And Bonnie Prigge and all of her staff there, they do a great job. And this really is just like they do a great job helping different entities administer grants, and that's what this is a huge grant. And they will do the tracking. They can handle all the application process, making sure that all the documentation is there and correct that needs to be, and then they would bring that back. They won't get the money. All the dollars are going to stay right here, and the checks will be cut right here, be signed by me, the treasurer, and the county clerk, just like any other checks that we send out. But those dollars will remain right here in the county, and they basically would periodically bring us those grant or those proposals, and bring them to us that they've looked through, and this is good, this is good, this is good, and it's good to go. So now in the meantime, the commission will have to develop some process, maybe of identifying what the priorities are, how much we want to first even allow to be spent, put out, and kind of divvy out how we're going to budget that out here through the year even, and so forth and so on. We're going to have a lot of work to do on this and on how this is going to be handled as we go on. But the first step, get the budget amendment, get it in the budget, get it in the account, and then get this worked out with somebody, whether it's MRPC, that's yet to be determined. But they'll get the information to us this week for an agreement that we can look at, that all the counties will be getting. And so
very good.
Yep. So anyway,
and get all the protocols involved, the voucher program. If once they get everything checked out, send you a voucher, you send a check, send them back the voucher. They know that the money's been spent. It's got to be real good communication.
Oh yeah.
As you're saying. Yeah. So they'll get that all worked out.
And the MRPC staff has real good relationships with folks at the federal level that can get answers and pursue those answers and find out what are some of the things that need more and better guidance, clarification, and so on behalf of all the counties. So rather than 8 counties, fighting the same battle individually, we can have one entity fighting that battle and getting that information then back to all of us. We've also got the Missouri Association of Counties attorney Travis Elliott, from the big law firm in Springfield that does this work for the Missouri Association of Counties and for the County Commission Association, and he's working on all these things too, as far as guidance and clarification. And we'll be working with the regional planning commissions as well, from what he finds and what they learn. So
it's clear as mud, Darrell. I don't know what the
you
problem
bet.
is.
Yeah. Well, one step at a time. But
it is.
At least there's dollars there, and we're going to take care of it. We're going to take care of it right, and do the best. Excuse me. Do the best we can to help the people here of our county and help us get through this.
All right. Very good. All right. Let's move forward.
Let me mention one last thing in regards to the MRPC.
Go ahead.
There was one other thing. We did set the date for the annual MRPC annual awards dinner. It's a work in progress, obviously, with everything going on. But for right now, it is set for Thursday evening, October 22nd, and would be at the Lynn State Technical College up at Lynn.
Been there before.
It was up there just about 3 or 4 years ago. With what we did, we put out a request for proposals from cities, counties, or people that would want to host the event and put it on. Unfortunately, with all this that's happened and going on, everybody's kind of got their hands full, and nobody even took the time to send back. We'd had some people, some entities indicated they were interested, but we didn't actually even get a single proposal back. And so Lynn State, though, Technical College found out that we didn't really even have any proposals or any place, and they contacted MRPC and said, if we want to come up here, they'd be more than happy to host it again if the situation at that time allows these deals to go ahead, and I think it will.
That's a very impressive place. If somebody has not been there,
Absolutely.
They really need to go. Just even because they'll give you a tour of the facility, which is pretty doggone amazing.
Yeah. It's a neat place. So anyway, we're very happy about that. So we did get that set. Otherwise, the conversation pretty well centered on what on getting this CARES Act dollars out and what MRPC's involvement may be in that, as well as just different thoughts from the different commissioners that were there on what they see and concerns and questions and so on. So.
Yeah, well, when you're liable for the money, you better be asking the questions.
That's right. That's right. You better do it right. And this is going to go on. I mean, we're going to have to the commission's going to be the ones, really and truly. Every county commission are the ones on the at point on this thing, and they're going to have to know what they're doing and pay attention and make sure we get everything done right. So
very good.
Yep.
All right, very good. Okay, are we ready to head into a few meeting things?
Well, yeah, we can.
Unless you got, I mean, it's your interview. You can do as you wish.
Well, I'll just mention first. I do want to mention on Road and Bridge. Of course, the crews have been out grading, spreading gravel, doing a lot of grading and spreading gravel and material. They put quite a lot of material down around some of the Missouri Department of Conservation and Wildlife areas. MDC will reimburse the county. I think it's right at $10,000 in total for the materials, and that is a contract that we do with MDC every year that they'll provide that amount. So, and those invoices have to be turned in here pretty soon, I believe, sometime around the 1st of June. So, the crews have been trying to get that material down and spread, and as well as in other places all around the county. They've also been cutting brush and replacing culverts. We did have one interesting deal. One of our highway patrolmen, Tyler Stewart, stopped in just to visit with us about a problem that was popping up that truck drivers, technology is a wonderful thing, Stan, but at the same time it can really be a problem. And truck drivers not familiar with the area, coming from the north, coming to the charcoal plant, their GPS, first of all, the first mistake is their GPS will take them down Highway 68 rather than take them on to Rollin down 72 and then back to the charcoal plant. It takes them down 68, and then it cuts them off on a gravel county road to go over. Now these are large semi-trailers.
These are big trucks.
And it's creating a problem. Of course, the drivers are not familiar with the area, and it's just amazing. Anymore people have just gotten so used to they'll plug an address in their phone, and I don't know. I guess some people, if that following that directions from that thing took them out across the middle of a swamp, that's where they'd head. But because I've seen some things on those. Sometimes that
crazy.
It just wasn't right.
Yeah.
But at any rate, their GPS is telling them that's the way to go, so they're heading off down a county road that has a narrow low water crossing. They've had some semis stuck down there on the road and things. They just don't need to be. They really just don't need to be on
there
road.
Anyway. Yeah.
So anyway, Commissioner Larson, he visited with us. Commissioner Larson will be looking at that problem and trying to take whatever steps we have to try to alleviate that problem somewhat. We know there's a road on down 68. If it doesn't cut them down that first one, then it'll probably cut them down the second one. We've had that problem before.
Isn't that a chip and seal road, that second one?
Yeah. But there is a little bridge on that one that has a weight limit, so we've kind of gotten that problem. But this is another one here that we've come up with. So it's just amazing that I don't know. People no longer really look at road maps or know how to even read a paper map, unfortunately. And one of the strangest things we're finding is a lot of times these truck drivers, somehow or another, they've gotten a permit and license to drive these 80,000-pound vehicles, and they can't read or speak any English. And that creates a whole new issue. Mm-hmm. And how anybody gets a license to drive a vehicle like that on a state, on our
you
state,
get your CDL, that'd be interesting.
and you can't read or speak English. Yeah. You can't even begin to read the road signs, let alone anything else. I don't know. We're getting off in a whole nother deal here that really gripes me, and I've never been able to get a decent answer from anybody on how this is happening. But at any rate, common sense you'd think would tell a person driving an 80,000-pound truck that when their GPS tells them to head off down a gravel road, probably something not quite according to Hoyle there. But that's just good old Ozark common sense, maybe thinking there that is maybe a little bit devoid in some of those folks.
From what you're saying, they're not from the Ozarks.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for certain. So at any rate, that's a little problem that's propped up that Commissioner Larson will be working on with some signage and some things to try to take care of that. This is a low water crossing that's not in good shape. It's one of them on our list to try to get it tore out and replaced. And that's a problem because you really can only do that more in a drier season. You can't get a little water crossing out right now. August, September are the 2 months where it's perfect for usually better anyway, not perfect, but anyway better for getting those things done, and we try to get a number of those done every year and have been. But at any rate, we'll address that. So
Very good. Very good. And the guys, and of course, of the wind we had this morning, I'm sure the guys were out checking for down limbs in trees today.
Probably so. I
Because
haven't
there were
heard.
some pretty good winds out there last night that
I
really
would-
came through.
I wouldn't doubt it, but
I'm
yeah,
sure they are
yeah.
out there. Just that, or they're monitoring calls in to see if there are
Right.
any.
Right. Actually, the
And
crews are on
reports.
410s now, but they may very well be getting calls, and we may have some of them in there having to go out and get some limbs and things. Remember, that windstorm came in pretty hard.
Yeah, disgusting.
I want to mention, we've talked about the economic effect of the coronavirus and things, and we know we're going to see that. It was kind of interesting. We got our sales tax report for May. It always comes in around the first week of May, and it's kind of interesting. Actually, for May, it was actually up about $3,000 for each fund. But you got to understand that sales tax isn't reflective of just the previous month. That goes on back.
Quarters.
Basically, the last 3 or 4 months. So it was actually up about $3,000 just for May of this year compared to May of last year. And again, when you're comparing 1 month against the month a year ago, that's not a real good comparison. Where you really need to look at is your year to date, and that's where we see what's happening to us year to date on this thing.
Because it could be down 1 month, and I think
Yeah.
April of 2019 was like 110,000. I mean, it was really high.
You just can't compare 1 month against the previous month or the month from the year before. But at any rate, year to down, we actually are down about 4%, somewhere around 4% in all of the funds. The General Revenue and Law Enforcement Sales Tax Fund, they're each down almost $20,000 year to date from what they were last year.
Right.
The Road and Bridge Fund is down about $6,500, not quite as much. But then the two jail funds, they're both down about $15,000 each as well. So you add all of the funds together, our sales tax funds, and they're down year to date so far, just through May, about $75,000. So
Not to mention the Denton County tourism tax was down $4,400 from the same month in April
Yeah.
as last year.
last year, yeah.
And the
And we
concern
knew-
was there is that with everything being shut down, it's going to be even worse.
That's right. That one's
Come
gonna,
June.
That one's going to be off quite a bit here as
Yeah.
we go along now. Hopefully those things will start kind of coming back and so on. But again, it's just what we got to watch. So,
The campsite's open on Monday, Darrell. So there you go.
and we know also that our sales tax is being affected by, as more and more goods, more and more businesses were closed, and as more and more goods, and this is not just Dent County, but this is across the state and across the nation, as more and more goods are purchased online without the appropriate sales tax being charged and remitted back, those revenues will continue to go down, and we're seeing that all across the country. And there's two schools of thought on that. Obviously, for those who buy most of their stuff online, they're very happy that there's no sales tax on that. But at the same time, voters have voted a sales tax to fund public safety and general revenue and operation of your county, and to fund it with that instead of property tax, which is good. Nobody likes property tax. But the thing is, you do that, and yet you allow some entities can sell all these products and not have to charge any sales tax. Well, the local entities that rely on that sales tax revenue to do those things take a hit. But it's also a real kick in the pants for those brick and mortar businesses that are trying to compete compete on a level playing field. It's really not level if the online competitor can do it. And now the legislature has batted this around, and so and we'll see what happens. I understand there may still be something here this year, and they call it the Wayfair. There was a federal lawsuit, and the Supreme Court ruled that in a Wayfair case that sales tax, but it's up to the states to enact legislation that require it, that sales tax can be charged for those internet online purchases, but it's up to each state to put in place how they're going to do that.
And
So,
it is kind of weird because some do take the sales tax out, or at least they charge you for it.
At least some of it.
Some of them do, and some of them only. And I've seen this happen, where some of them only take out the state sales tax, not the local sales tax is not included.
The problem is, it seems that so many of the locals never see it still. So I tell you, I'm pretty sure the legislators don't seem to want to touch this. They view it as an additional tax. Well, I don't really see how you can view it as an additional tax when the voters in that place where that person is ordering that from have already voted and passed these sales. The voters are the ones that approved these sales taxes. They weren't just stuck on people. The voters approved them. And and the legislators say, well, they don't. No. They feel like it's additional tax, so they don't want to touch it. And so anyway, but I'll bet you $1, Stan, if Amazon started delivering gasoline to people's cars and would fill them up at night while they're sitting in their driveways and could do that without having to pay any tax on that goes back to help fund MoDOT's roads and things, I'll bet you we'd see the legislature jump on this and fix that problem. But anyway, that's just some.
But again, they're losing out on some. Some have no sales tax, so the state doesn't get anything either.
Yep.
Here's my thinking on that.
The state actually has a use tax thing in place that pretty well allows them to collect most of the sales tax for themselves.
Right, but only if you pay for it when you buy online. If you don't pay for it, then they're not going to get it. And there are a few that still, like I said, many of them do charge you the state sales tax, but they don't charge you anything else. But my thing is, Darrell, is that when you call that a tax, when you go on the internet and buy something from somebody and they ask you what your zip code is, you give them the zip code, that should tell them what all the local sales tax are and everything else. If it's going in the city or going in the county or wherever it is, once you put your address in, all that data has been done. Sure has been done for UPS and FedEx, because as soon as you put your address in there, they'll tell you how much it's going to ship. That's to me, that's a tax. Because I shouldn't have to pay for that. If this was a brick and mortar store, I wouldn't be paying that shipping.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a reverse tax, but it's still a tax.
Yep. It's a growing problem. It's a growing problem for the brick and mortar stores trying to compete. It's a huge growing problem for those entities who are seeing their revenues decline month after month, year after year, as a result of those dollars going out and leaving. And I mean, we see it. We see the FedEx and UPS trucks and for that matter, the U.S. Postal Service package deliveries and stuff. It's more and more and more all the time. And as when the government's encouraging people stay home and don't go out and making businesses closed, well, they're almost telling people you're going to have to order as much as you can online and get it stuff rather than don't go.
Right. So then you're bringing something to somebody's house from a foreign area.
It's a real conundrum. Yeah. Yep. So
yeah.
Anyway, but that's where we're at on that. Our sales tax are down total. All the funds about $75,000 year to date. So we'll be watching that. So anyway.
Very good. We have a contract with Fidelity now for our new jail. Our internet service?
Yes, we did. Work continues on the jail, doing all the various little things. And obviously, all this stuff that's happened here recently went ahead and slowed things down as far as getting all the various little I's dotted and T's crossed. But work continues. And, one thing, since all this happened, we wanted to have an open house back in April, even. Perhaps of getting finished up. A lot of little stuff needs to be done, but with all this happening with the social distancing and the requirements that came down, that certainly wasn't going to be possible. The sheriff is still looking at trying to arrive at a time when we can have a ribbon cutting and have an open house, and we'd love to be able to take small groups at a time, possibly through to see what we've done, what we've got. Now, like I say, they're still finishing up some small things, just like you say on we did approve the sheriff signing a contract on behalf of the county for Fidelity to provide internet service and and things over at the jail. And there's just a whole lot more of little odds and end things, some cabling being put in place on the railing that needed to be done to meet code, some ceiling tiles that needed to be redone with a different structure, and just a lot of things like that. But otherwise, we're about ready to, we'll probably, I think here at the end of the month, take final full possession and be ready. And I know the sheriff is looking at seeing how this goes, this phase of reopening, to the economy and everything and the public through May, and see if we can't schedule something for an open house and a ribbon cutting yet. So
nice.
We want people need it, but we need to do that obviously before we have inmates and transferred over in population put in jail. So anyway.
Very good. Very good.
That catches us up on that.
Economic Development Director Sally Burbridge came in to update the county on the different things going on, and of course the different federal programs, the different SBA loans that are out there, the payroll protection. She went over quite a lot of details about it, but also brought in a logo that the city of Salem was adopting, and obviously, Denton County is not going to adopt the same logo as the city of Salem,
Similar,
but it's
yeah.
similar.
It's part
But
of
they're
our- part of
trying to
our-
get it to where it flows very similar.
Right. Yeah, we've been working for some time on trying to get our internet site web page updated and so forth. So they've been working on branding, logo, and so on, and it looks really good. And we really like. And the city will have its own logo that they'll be using on their vehicles and things, and on their website. And in connection with that, then the county we can have one that fits more of the county for the thing, because we want it to work. And I'm really excited to see this website. I'm really, really tickled and pleased, and appreciate Sally's working on this. She's kind of took this over and took the lead on it, and it's moving along pretty well now. So looking good. I think folks are gonna like the looks of the logos for both entities when we get this.
Stays in the same
place.
vein. They both flow the same, but one's
Yeah.
Denton County, one's Salem.
Right. Yeah. Two really distinctly different, and so I think it'll be good. I think it'll work fine. They're similar enough. I think they blend well, complement each other. So really excited to see this thing moving along. And
Very good,
the place
very
we've been needing a website that each of our office holders could go in themselves and update their information as it comes along. So look forward to that being done.
Very good. And we're getting close to a municipal election, Darrell. That means that Angie's been training poll workers and testing machinery is all going to be done, and we still got absentee voting going on.
Absentee voting is going on the Saturday before the June 2nd election. The courthouse will be open from 8 to noon for absentee voting. Absentee voting is going on right now. As you say, she had poll worker training last week. Pretty soon they'll be testing all the voting equipment. And so everything. And the courthouse is, of course, back open to regular business. They do ask folks to respect the social distancing, it's hard for me to even say that, social distancing guidelines. And so.
I almost say social separation because
Yeah.
distancing somehow doesn't fit very well. But also, I wanted to pass on to people that Angie did apply for this grant to help pay for protective equipment for the poll workers. So
Right.
They will be protected when you come to vote.
She will be getting some dollars to help pay for anything and all that various stuff that she needs there. So yep, everything's progressing along.
Very good. And of course, Mike Elliott came in from Town and
Oh,
Country
yeah.
Insurance.
Right, he's our agent for our insurance carrier for the courthouse and the judicial building, and on our casualty insurance and things. And we did increase the coverages on both of those buildings to just for better protection. So
Very
glad
good.
to get that done.
And you have a new rentee over there at the annex.
Yes, the Russell House. We completed work on an agreement for the Russell House, who handles and helps advocates for victims of domestic abuse.
That's right.
So they've been looking for a place to rent. During the construction of the jail, Septagon Construction was our construction manager, and they had an office. We supplied them an office over in the annex, over on 4th Street, directly north and across the street from the city administrative offices. And they had an office. It's a fairly small office right in there. And so we did work out an agreement with the Russell House for them to have an office in there for $200 a month, and got that agreement. I appreciate Prosecutor Andrew Curley worked up a rental lease agreement for the county and the Russell House directors to sign. We got that. The county signed it this week, and I'm sure, and they got sent on over to them, and they're excited to get that, and they will be able to take possession of that office June 1st.
All right, very good. Yeah, Ozark River Solid Waste Management District Executive Board meeting. Anything come out of that?
Not a whole lot other than, and I don't have that information with me. I'll bring some more later. We did finalize work on the, actually I ended up attending that meeting by a telephone conference call. It just wasn't going to work out to get there in time for it, and with everything going on. But at any rate, we did finalize work on the grant application for this coming year for solid waste reduction grants. I don't know how much money there will be yet. We basically was kind of some housekeeping, cleaning up on some grants that were out there that we needed to finish up so they could be finalized, is what it amounts to. And other than that, though, we just finished up the approving the grant application itself, and I'll have some more information on that here as we get that, as they get the dollars, how much is going to be available, and if there's any new guidelines come out. So we'll be releasing that, but that'll be coming out. That new grant application will be due again sometime here in July.
Right, and part of what they do is what we have coming up tomorrow, We have an electronics and tire collection.
Collection, yes, here in Salem, over on
Third and Grand.
and Grand, right now, and they'll be collecting.
Anything with a cord or runs on a battery.
There you go. Yep.
That makes it easy.
Yep.
And tires.
And these are for individual. They're not for businesses to load up and get rid of all these things. So anyway, and on some of the things, the bigger things, there is a small charge for to get rid of those. So
definitely for the tires, there's a charge. 2 for passenger tire, 5 for tractor tire, and 35. I think it's 5. Don't quote me.
Yep.
And then 35 for the big tractor tires. That I do know.
That'll be tomorrow morning, from 9 to noon? I
9
think?
to 1.
Or 9 to 1.
9 to 1.
Yep.
And then, of course, 2 TVs, monitors, things of that nature that have those kind of things in them. There is a charge for that. And if you do have, like an old weed eater like I have, do make sure you get the gas out or lawnmowers, anything like that. You can take those over there as well and make sure you've got that petrol out of there so they don't have that. It's flammable. Get that out of there. Otherwise, you're not going to get out of your car this time. You get over there, and they're going to have people to remove the items from your vehicle, your car, your truck, trailer, whatever you bring in.
Right. They're trying to respect the social distancing guidelines.
Yeah.
So and limiting exposure.
But don't forget the fees. Your TVs and stuff, you have to pay a small fee to have those because they will take those apart and they'll salvage the gold and
they've done these in different cities and towns all across the Merrimack region, and these are sponsored by the Ozark River Solid Waste Management District through some of the grant funds, and there's literally been tons and tons and tons of electronics, appliances, and tires and things picked up at these pickup deals that have been scheduled. Now we do have also I forget what the tonnage was. There was several tons of trash picked up and recycled from illegal dump sites in the National Forest in, I believe, over in Phelps and Pulaski County last year. They are working on scheduling an illegal dump cleanup and pickup here in Dent County, and they'll be working with the Forest Service on that, looking for that to be this fall, later in the fall. They don't like to do those during the tick and snake season, they call it, They're a little ouchy.
Well, I was going to say, they're already late.
Yeah, they're a little ouchy about the ticks and snakes, so I don't know.
Well, ticks are already out there.
Yeah, they're out there. So are the snakes. But anyway, I don't worry much about them, but probably should.
And one other last thing, I know you attended the SACPA board meeting on Monday night as well. I want to remind everybody about the SACPA Farmers Market. It's back open now on Saturday morning, 7:30 until noon, and you can get back out there and enjoy some fresh-grown, homegrown vegetables. And
that's right.
There's also baked products and different things out there. Definitely want to check that out.
Right. Yep. And thank goodness SACPA was able to hold their trivia night fundraiser
right before
Saturday before everything kind of got the state ordered shut down for a while. So it's interesting. But yeah, come out to the farmers market. There's some great things to be had there, and they appreciate your business, and they are open and going to be in business. Maybe kind of a cool, maybe rainy. I guess warm. It's supposed to be warm this weekend, isn't it?
It's supposed to be warm.
But anyway,
it might be wet.
Might be a little rainy, but they got a good shelter, and it's just a nice place to come.
Right. They have it marked for social distancing as well, and one way in, one way out. So do abide by the arrows down there, and they do have a hand washing station that's out there. So if you want to wash your hands, you're more than welcome to do that after picking something up. But you might bring your own sanitizer as well, just in case.
Yep.
So very good. So I don't have anything else, sir.
Nope. I think that catches us up.
Very good. Well, we always want to remind everybody the first and third Fridays, Darrell comes in. We talk a lot about county business, and we have had in the past Health Administrator Kendra Mowbray and Economic Development Director Sally Burbridge in. So, Darrell does bring in guests from time to time to try and enhance what's going on, letting you know about things you sometimes forget. I know we've had people from Raleigh Recycling on, and things change there, and they keep us up to date. We've had officers in, we've had the sheriff in before, we've
state senator, state senator, state reps. We'll get our congressman in here one day. That's on the agenda.
He'll give you the 20 minutes to do it. I mean, he's in and out, so I mean it's good. But anyway, we do this to try and keep you informed about what's going on in your community the best we can, and thank Darrell for that. And This is paid for out of his pocket. There are no county dollars, there are no tax dollars, no CARES Act money.
Nope.
Nothing like
Nope.
that's going to come in and make this
Nope.
happen. He does pay for it, and we do thank Darrell again for doing this to keep you informed about what's going on in your community.
Well, you're very welcome, Stan. I thank you for the opportunity, and I do hope folks heard something of interest or useful. It will be kind of a break. It's usually about every other week we're in, but just because of the way the calendar works, it'll be 3 weeks before we're back in here on the first Friday in June. But at any rate, so there'll be a lot to talk about when we get back in here, I'm sure, in 3 weeks, and hopefully it's all good news, and we'll be off and rolling. But at any rate, until we're back here again, I hope everyone will be safe, happy, healthy. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll leave you with this.